The landscape of modern relationships is undergoing a silent yet profound transformation, driven not by a shift in emotional commitment, but by a radical redefinition of economic autonomy within the domestic sphere. For generations, the conventional narrative of marital unity dictated that two individuals becoming one meant merging everything they owned, creating a singular, shared financial destiny where joint checking accounts, collective savings pools, and mutually shared debts were the unquestioned norm. This traditional blueprint was viewed not merely as a practical arrangement for managing household expenses, but as the ultimate symbolic validation of trust, partnership, and permanent commitment. To suggest otherwise was often perceived as a sign of hesitation, a lack of faith in the longevity of the union, or a calculated exit strategy. However, as the economic realities of the 21st century continue to evolve, an increasing number of couples are beginning to question this deep-seated dogma, recognizing that the forced amalgamation of disparate financial habits, historical debts, and divergent income streams can quickly become a breeding ground for systemic resentment and marital discord. The romantic idealism that once seamlessly linked emotional fidelity with financial integration is being replaced by a pragmatic understanding that keeping separate bank accounts might actually be the very mechanism that preserves love and ensures long-term relationship stability. This emerging perspective challenges the long-held assumption that financial intimacy requires total transparency and structural unity, suggesting instead that individual financial autonomy within a marriage can foster mutual respect and alleviate the daily frictions that so often lead to domestic breakdown. As we delve into the complexities of contemporary partnership, it becomes essential to examine how modern couples navigate these delicate boundaries, balances of power and personal values without losing the core connection that brought them together in the first place. If you find these deep dives into the hidden dynamics of modern life intriguing, please take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode where we uncover the forces shaping our world. The hidden friction points within a household rarely manifest as explosive arguments overnight, but rather accumulate as subtle, unspoken tensions over daily transactional decisions, contrasting lifestyle expectations, and individual spending philosophies that silently erode the foundation of a partnership. When two people enter a marriage, they bring with them a lifetime of deeply ingrained psychological conditioning regarding wealth, scarcity, security, and consumption, which are rarely perfectly aligned. One partner may have been raised in an environment of strict frugality, viewing every unessential expenditure as a threat to future security, while the other may view money as a dynamic tool meant to be enjoyed and spent freely on immediate experiences and comforts. When these two opposing financial worldviews are forced into a single joint checking account, every single purchase, from a routine grocery trip to a personal indulgence, becomes a potential flashpoint for judgment, micromanagement, and defensive justification. The frugal partner begins to monitor the statement with a critical eye, interpreting the other's spending as reckless and disrespectful to their shared goals, while the expressive spender feels suffocated, controlled, and stripped of their personal agency. This constant surveillance and need for mutual permission creates a toxic dynamic where one partner inadvertently assumes the role of a strict auditor or parental figure, while the other feels relegated to the status of a dependent child who must ask for an allowance. The psychological toll of this dynamic cannot be understated, as it systematically dismantles the egalitarian balance that is vital for a healthy, mature relationship, replacing it with a subtle hierarchy that breeds deep undercurrents of bitterness and alienation. Furthermore, the complexities multiply exponentially when couples are faced with uneven income distributions or significant pre-existing financial obligations that occurred long before the relationship even began. In an era where individuals marry later in life, many enter a union already carrying substantial burdens, such as student loan debt, car notes, or credit card balances, alongside established individual income trajectories that may be starkly unequal. If these finances are immediately merged upon marriage, the partner with higher earnings or less debt may find themselves absorbing a massive financial liability that they had no part in creating, leading to an unspoken feeling of being penalized for their success or prudence. Conversely, the partner carrying the debt or earning less may suffer from an overwhelming sense of guilt, feeling like an economic burden who is actively dragging down the financial progress of the person they love. This imbalance can subtly alter the power dynamics of the marriage, where the higher earner may unconsciously feel entitled to a greater say in major household decisions, and the lower earner may withdraw, feeling that their voice is less valuable because their financial contribution is smaller. By forcing an artificial financial equality onto an inherently unequal reality, couples often exacerbate the very tensions they hope to avoid, demonstrating that the traditional model of total integration is poorly equipped to handle the nuanced, individualized economic profiles of modern adults. The search for a healthier alternative has led many to discover that maintaining distinct, independent financial boundaries provides a protective buffer around their romance, allowing both individuals to retain their identity, security, and peace of mind while still building a life together. This approach does not signify a lack of trust or a fragmentation of the relationship, but rather a mature acknowledgement that financial compatibility is not about being identical, but about managing differences with grace and structure. As we look closer at how couples successfully implement these separate systems, we begin to see a blueprint for partnership that prioritizes individual psychological well-being as a cornerstone of collective marital longevity, proving that independence and intimacy can coexist harmoniously. The practical implementation of keeping finances separate within a marriage reveals a highly strategic and coordinated effort that goes far beyond simply maintaining individual bank accounts. When couples actively choose to reject the traditional method of total financial fusion, they are required to establish an entirely new framework of communication and logistics that ensures fairness without sacrificing the emotional connection of their partnership. This process begins with an open and thoroughly transparent dialogue about fixed household expenses, long-term savings objectives, and the equitable distribution of financial responsibilities. Rather than operating in total isolation, successful couples often utilize a hybrid model that features distinct individual checking and savings accounts, alongside a highly regulated, neutral joint account used exclusively for collective obligations. In this specific arrangement, both partners retain absolute control over their primary personal income, while mutually contributing a predetermined amount to the shared account to cover essential items such as rent, mortgages, utilities, groceries, and insurance. The determination of how much each partner contributes to this shared pool is where the true mechanics of equity come into play, especially when there is a significant discrepancy in earnings. Some couples choose a strict 50-50 split, which works effectively when income levels are relatively equal, but can place an undue and exhausting financial strain on the lower-earning partner if salaries are vastly different. To resolve this inherent imbalance, many modern partnerships adopt a proportional contribution model, where each individual contributes a percentage of their income that directly reflects their overall share of the household's total revenue. For example, if one partner earns 70% of the combined household income, they will cover 70% of the collective bills, leaving both individuals with a proportional amount of personal disposable income to spend or save as they see fit. This highly structured methodology effectively neutralizes the potential for financial exploitation or resentment, ensuring that neither partner feels economically suffocated or unfairly burdened by the shared cost of living. Beyond the mechanical allocation of bills, the preservation of individual accounts serves a vital psychological function by eliminating the exhausting need for constant justification, micromanagement, and transactional permission that so often degrades marital bliss. When every dollar is pooled into a single entity, individual autonomy is practically erased, turning minor personal purchases into potential household debates or arguments. A partner who wishes to indulge in a hobby, purchase clothing, or treat themselves to a luxury item is forced to consider how their independent decision impacts the collective fund and how it will be perceived by their spouse. By maintaining separate accounts, a vital boundary of privacy and personal freedom is securely preserved, allowing each person to spend their discretionary income on their own passions without fear of judgment, criticism, or the need to explain themselves. This sense of personal agency is essential for maintaining an adult identity within a marriage, preventing the toxic dynamic where one spouse takes on the role of a financial gatekeeper or parent. Furthermore, this financial model provides an incredibly strong layer of logistical protection against unexpected hardships, individual credit issues, and systemic economic vulnerabilities. If one partner enters the marriage with a complicated financial history, outstanding collections, or low credit scores, keeping separate accounts prevents those individual liabilities from automatically dragging down the other partner's financial standing or limiting their collective ability to secure clean financing in the future. It also ensures that if an emergency arises, or if one account experiences a temporary freeze due to fraud or banking errors, the household still retains immediate access to independent liquid assets through the other partner's accounts, ensuring continuous operational stability. This separation also provides a healthy incentive for both individuals to remain actively engaged in their own personal financial growth, investments, and retirement planning, rather than passively delegating those critical responsibilities to a single dominant partner. Far from creating an emotional distance, this system forces a continuous, mature, and deliberate conversation about money, goals, and values that strengthens the communicative foundation of the entire relationship. However, the world of media, entertainment, and professional public relations introduces its own highly intense and dramatic financial lessons regarding public perception, personal branding, and the rapid consequences of impulsive decisions. This reality is perfectly illustrated by the high-stakes world of sports media and digital celebrity, where a single misstep can instantly dismantle a highly lucrative and coveted career opportunity in the blink of an eye. The volatile intersection of internet culture and massive professional athletic organizations was put on full display when digital influencer and media personality Addison Rae faced an immediate and overwhelming wave of public backlash following a highly controversial announcement regarding her employment. Having amassed an enormous following of tens of millions of fans across various social media platforms, primarily through short-form dance videos, lifestyle content, and beauty marketing, Rae was suddenly positioned to transition into the mainstream sports world. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, a multi-billion-dollar mixed martial arts organization known for its intense global fan base and highly specialized athletic culture, extended an opportunity for Rae to serve as a high-profile broadcast correspondent for one of its major pay-per-view events. This unexpected promotional crossover was designed to bridge the gap between traditional combat sports and the massive younger demographic of digital media consumers, creating a unique synergy that could drive unprecedented viewership. Yet, the announcement of this high-profile gig was met with immediate resistance from seasoned sports journalists, dedicated athletic commentators, and passionate fans who viewed the appointment as a direct insult to the profession. The situation rapidly deteriorated into a public relations crisis when Ray posted a tweet celebrating the new position with a caption that many perceived as deeply disrespectful, tone-deaf, and obnoxious to those who had dedicated their entire lives to the craft of sports journalism. In the widely circulated post, she jokingly implied that her minimal preparation and lack of formal journalistic background were entirely sufficient for the role, effectively trivializing the intense education, low-wage grinding, and years of tireless dedication required to earn a spot on a major sports broadcast network. The reaction from the public and the media community was swift, furious, and uncompromising, as thousands of users openly criticized both Ray for her perceived arrogance and the organization for prioritizing superficial internet metrics over genuine journalistic merit and professional credibility. The intense digital uproar highlighted a deep societal frustration regarding the modern creator economy, where traditional standards of expertise, hard work, and professional qualification are frequently bypassed in favor of algorithmic reach, follower counts, and viral marketing potential. For many aspiring journalists who had spent years covering local matches, studying athletic statistics, and working unpaid internships just to get a foot in the door, Ray's flippant comment felt like a painful slap in the face that exposed the stark inequities of the modern media landscape. Recognizing the severe damage being done to its corporate image and the integrity of its broadcast product, the organization moved with extraordinary speed to address the escalating controversy and distance itself from the public relations fallout. Within a remarkably short period following the initial social media storm, reports surfaced confirming that Ray would no longer be participating in the broadcast or serving as a correspondent for the organization, effectively terminating the partnership before it could even fully begin. This rapid and decisive removal sent a powerful shockwave through the entertainment industry, serving as a stark warning to digital influencers that massive corporate entities will not hesitate to cut ties when a creator's personal branding conflicts with the core values of their audience. The situation underscored the delicate, high-stakes balance that contemporary celebrities must navigate when expanding their personal brands into highly specialized protective subcultures that value authenticity, respect, and deep knowledge above all else. It proved that while a massive social media following can open incredibly exclusive doors, it cannot protect an individual from the consequences of failing to respect the history, standards, and community of the space they are entering. This dramatic sequence of events perfectly illustrated how quickly professional fortunes can shift in the digital age, where a single poorly worded message can completely derail a major career milestone and trigger an immediate corporate decoupling. As the media landscape continues to grapple with these volatile cultural shifts, the broader implications of public backlash, accountability, and the responsibilities of public figures remain a central point of discussion across the globe. The volatile nature of public platforms and the frightening velocity of digital backlash find their most severe and culturally devastating manifestation when the stakes are elevated from individual commercial contracts to the grand arena of international sports, where national identity and systemic social fractures collide. This painful reality was pushed to a historical climax in the immediate aftermath of the Euro 2020 tournament, a massive sporting event that captured the absolute attention of millions across Europe and the globe, culminating in an agonizingly tense final match between England and Italy at Wembley Stadium. For England, a nation that had not won a major international football trophy since the historic World Cup victory of 1966, the tournament was infused with an almost spiritual significance, carrying decades of collective longing, intense media expectation, and a powerful cultural narrative that the sport was finally returning to its historical home. The squad assembled to carry this immense psychological burden was notably characterized by its youth, its extraordinary diversity, and a refreshing sense of social consciousness that had earned them deep admiration far beyond the pitch. However, when the grueling match extended past extra time and descended into the brutal, unpredictable lottery of a penalty shootout, the collective dream of a nation evaporated in a matter of minutes as three young English players failed to convert their spot kicks, resulting in a heartbreaking defeat. What followed the final whistle was not merely a shared sporting grief, but an instantaneous, coordinated, and horrifying explosion of racist vitriol across major social media channels, targeted directly at the three specific black athletes who had stepped forward to take those high-pressure shots. This dark turning point exposed the fragile, highly conditional nature of public adulation, demonstrating how rapidly celebrated national heroes can be stripped of their humanity and subjected to systemic abuse the moment their performance falls short of perfection. To truly comprehend the depth of this crisis and why it resonated so profoundly across global culture, it is essential to look closely at the remarkable biographies and personal journeys of the individuals who found themselves at the epicenter of this digital storm. Foremost among them is Marcus Rashford, a forward whose life story embodies a profound dedication to human dignity and social justice that extends far beyond his exceptional athletic achievements. Born into a working-class family in Manchester, Rashford was raised by a single mother who frequently worked multiple jobs and skipped meals herself to ensure her children had food on the table, an experience of systemic poverty that deeply shaped his character. Rising rapidly through the prestigious Manchester United Youth Academy, Rashford established himself as a world-class athlete at a remarkably young age. But it was his extraordinary humanitarian work during the global pandemic that elevated him to the status of a transformative national figure. Recognizing the catastrophic impact of school closures on vulnerable youth, Rashford single-handedly launched a relentless, highly sophisticated political and media campaign that forced the British government to reverse its policies and guarantee free school meals for millions of low-income children during holidays. His tireless advocacy, driven by an authentic understanding of hunger and hardship, earned him widespread acclaim, honorary university degrees, and official royal honors, positioning him as a symbol of hope and unity for a changing nation. Yet, despite this monumental record of public service and his status as a beloved national treasure, Rashford was subjected to a torrent of grotesque racial slurs online within seconds of his penalty hitting the post. And a prominent public mural dedicated to his community work in Manchester was swiftly defaced with hateful graffiti, illustrating the terrifying speed with which systemic prejudice can overwrite years of exceptional societal contribution. Standing alongside Rashford in this shared crucible was Bukayo Saka, a 19-year-old prodigy whose meteoric rise through the ranks of Arsenal Football Club had captivated fans and analysts alike throughout the entire tournament. Born to Nigerian parents who had immigrated to London in search of a better life for their family, Saka was raised with a fierce emphasis on education, humility, and faith, earning top academic marks in school while simultaneously honing his world-class footballing talents. Known throughout the sporting community for his infectious joy, exceptional tactical intelligence, and a gentle, deeply polite demeanor that contrasted sharply with the aggressive nature of professional sports, Saka had become the breakout star of the English squad, trusted by his manager to perform in the most critical moments. when he was chosen to take the fifth and final penalty of the shootout, a monumental responsibility that would test the resolve of the most seasoned veterans in the history of the sport. The eyes of the world were fixed on the teenager, and when the Italian goalkeeper blocked his shot, the burden of the loss fell squarely upon his young shoulders. The digital aftermath on his personal social media profiles was immediate and relentless, flooded with a highly concentrated wave of organized hate speech, racial epithets, and dehumanizing commentary that laid bare the complete failure of technology corporations to protect young individuals from automated and cross-border digital abuse. The third player to face this targeted campaign was Jadon Sancho, another extraordinarily talented young forward who had boldly moved abroad to Germany in his teenage years to establish his professional career, showcasing a fierce independence and a relentless drive to succeed against all odds. These three athletes, all children of the diaspora who had chosen to represent England on the grandest stage possible, were suddenly bound together not just by a shared sporting disappointment, but by the traumatic experience of becoming lightning rods for a deeply rooted societal malice that emerged from the shadows of internet anonymity. The broader implications of this historic event extend far beyond the parameters of international football, serving as a critical diagnostic moment for modern society regarding the ethics of digital spaces, the responsibilities of massive technology conglomerates, and the psychological sustainability of public life in the 21st century. This crisis forced a massive global conversation about the toxic nature of online anonymity, as it became blindingly obvious that traditional legal and social frameworks are completely inadequate for holding individuals accountable when they perpetrate hate speech from behind the safety of pseudonymous profiles. It triggered a fierce demand for international technology platforms to implement far more rigorous verification systems and real-time content moderation algorithms capable of intercepting and neutralizing coordinated harassment campaigns before they can inflict profound psychological harm on their targets. Furthermore, the event catalyzed an extraordinary grassroots counter-movement of solidarity and love as regular citizens, local communities, and fellow sports figures rallied around Rashford, Saka, and Sancho, covering the defaced Manchester mural with hundreds of handwritten letters of support, art, and messages of profound gratitude. This powerful collective response demonstrated that while the digital landscape can amplify the darkest elements of human nature, there remains a resilient, deeply empathetic majority determined to defend the dignity of those who step forward to represent the collective aspirations of society. Ultimately, this entire three-part narrative, stretching from the intimate, private dynamics of couples maintaining their financial autonomy to preserve love, to the high-stakes corporate swiftness of media entities cutting ties with digital celebrities over professional disrespect, and finally to international athletes standing resilient against the tides of systemic digital malice, reveals the profound complexity of navigating life in an interconnected world. Whether in the quiet spaces of a shared household or the roaring amphitheater of a global stadium, the core challenge of the modern era remains remarkably consistent: the vital necessity of establishing clear boundaries, protecting individual humanity, and fostering environments grounded in genuine mutual respect against the volatile, unforgiving currents of a rapidly evolving cultural and economic landscape.